Hi, it's Lena,
And John.
and this is Culturally Different. And today we are going to talk about international marriage and some of the benefits or drawbacks of having international marriage. So, if you are considering marrying a foreigner or being a foreigner in your marriage,
Or a little bit of both.
then just watch this video. Maybe you'll find something useful. So the first and the most obvious one is, of course, red tape. You will have to deal with different places and different governmental institutions to obtain different documents, starting with your marriage license, and it's more complicated, I guess, than the regular one, to birth certificate of your kids.
Yeah, and then like name
Visas.
changes on like passports and all of that stuff too.
Green card, and everything, document included.
Yeah, and then becoming a dual citizen if you want to go that route, if your country allows that route. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a huge headache. It takes years and a lot of money. It's really not fun. And then there are all the interviews too. You feel like you're being interrogated.
You are actually.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Our guy was pretty nice though.
Yeah.
We walked
Another one of the most obvious, of course, would be learning a foreign language. Unless you are both from English-speaking or German-speaking country, then it's fine. Maybe still adjusting to somebody's dialect or words that they use.
I guess even like regional differences. Like if you're an American in the north going to the south, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so internationally, it's definitely a huge adjustment, but very, very important. One of my biggest regrets is that I didn't spend more time learning Russian, because now like I feel more distant from Lena's family and her friends because I can't carry on a normal conversation at a normal speed. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, and if you can speak with your husband, you will still want to speak to other people in the country. You will still want to not be helpless when you can't do anything alone because you don't speak the language. Not going anywhere, not doing anything. Again, not speaking with anybody.
Yeah. It's like being in the U.S. without a car. You're just kind of stuck.
Yeah, it's very limiting.
Yeah, not being able to do like some simple things, like take care of like the rent and bills and stuff like that. It's a challenge. It's be fun.
Talking to your neighbors, for example, talking to your husband's relatives and friends, making new friends, it will be pretty difficult to do otherwise.
Yeah, and on top of that, like even though like we know each other's languages and we speak English because, well, honestly, her English is much better than my Russian, which is something I definitely need to work on. But even with that, like there's still misunderstandings between us because of language differences.
Yeah.
So I'd say like with us it's few and far between, but even with us, and you hear Lena's English is like perfect. She is fluent. She's like certified fluent. But there's still difficulties at times. So.
Yeah. And difficulties with me sometimes because when you want to emotionally convey some meaning, then it's hard because you just want to switch. Not anymore, but at first it was my thing. Like we want to argue about something when you want to say something, and then you're like stuck with your slow English, or like what's this called? What do you call this? What adjectives to use? Anyway.
Yeah. How do I really want to call you something right now, but I'm not sure how to say it in your language. So.
Yeah, not call you, of course, but more like express myself. Like I want to say, I want to say what I feel, but I just, again, like, I'm limited in adjectives, for example, or adverbs, or whatever. Which the next one is actually connected to this one a little bit, is your career. It's not exactly career, it can be many things, but I guess career is the first thing, because we are somebody. We are not just I'm a man, you are a woman, I'm Lena, this is John, but we're also somebody. Like, I'm a teacher, for example, in my own country, or I'm a businessman, or somebody else. And you want to stay this person, you want to do this, especially if you love it a lot. And it may be complicated because, again, of limited language that you use, or other things. For example, different regulations. If you're a lawyer in Russia, you're nobody here. I mean, you don't know laws here. The same with medicine and stuff.
Yeah. So like right now, I'm an apprentice plumber. So it's a new career field for me. If I go to Russia, like, plumbers don't make nearly as much as they do in the U.S. Which in the U.S., if you don't know, it's pretty good. Not so much apprentices, but we're getting there. But
Plus stereotypes.
yeah, it's stereotypes.
When somebody tells me that their husband is a plumber, or somebody's a plumber, I can't remember their husband, like somebody's a plumber, I think this is a fat, alcoholic, lazy person, probably covered,
Well, that happens from time to time.
Yeah.
But
So still, if you like your career, it can be a big disadvantage, especially if you get married in older. Then of course you already have some career, or at least you are moving towards some promotion, something in your career. It was even a thing for me, I think.
yeah, sorry.
Because I thought I was doing great and moving somewhere where, like, in what I like. Again, it was not that bad to give it up, but still, like, a thing to consider. But on the other hand, if you are not sure what you want to do, or if what you want to do in your country is not that profitable, or not many people do it, or I don't know, or many people do it, and you want to start fresh, start new,
Yeah.
perfect.
That
It's
might be
your
something to look into.
open doors. Yeah, so you can actually start fresh in a different country
Yeah,
if you're open to it.
I feel like English speakers have a little bit of an unfair advantage in this too, because we can always go to another country and be English teachers, which is
earn pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I did when I lived in Russia, and it made enough to not only like support myself there, pay all the bills and stuff, but was able to afford travel back to the U.S. and vacations and stuff. So.
One of the things that may be a big disadvantage for you or for your husband, or both of you, is that it depends on how you choose to live. Meaning, if you're from two different countries, you may choose to live in one country all the time, or you choose to live in the other country all the time, or in the third country all the time, or you may want to move. For example, you live in one country sometime, then you live in the other country. Even if you choose to live in two different countries, you will still go home, or your husband will want to go home, your wife, your spouse will go home. So it will be a lot of traveling. So if you hate traveling, if you don't want to live in two countries kind of at the same time, then it may be a big thing for you. We chose to live in two countries, not at the same time, but we live in one country for some time, then we move to the other country and live there sometime too. We've been here for almost 4 years now.
Yeah. Things have gotten a little complicated as far as that goes, because I'm American and she is Russian.
Yeah.
And our countries are not getting along right now, which is making things very, very difficult to get things like visas and
documents needed to travel. Now we have a kid. It's also complicated because technically she cannot go and John can't go because they're Americans and they can't get visas. I can go anytime. I wouldn't go without them.
But now she wouldn't be allowed to get was a Schengen visa. Like stuff like this is something to consider as well. Not that it should prevent you, but you got to be aware that stuff happens that you can't control.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff like popping up around the world that's shutting borders, changing borders, and unfortunately, like people like us are just kind of like caught in the middle, and not directly in the middle, luckily, but still affected negatively. So we would love to go back to Russia and see at least Lena's family, see some of her friends, spend some time there, let our daughter experience where she came from.
Yeah. On a positive note, again, we're still hopeful that it will happen sometime, and we'll be able to live in Russia too, to kind of adjust again to a different life. For me, it's exciting. I guess I like moving back and forth, like from place to place, but not like traveling constantly non-stop, but just living some time and then going and living somewhere else for some time.
Yeah, I'd say I like traveling. I don't like moving so much.
Oh, it does.
It's a pain. Oh, it's a cool dog.
Oh.
The next thing that we're going to be talking about is missing family.
Because when you don't live in your country, your spouse may not live in your country, in their country, or you live in a third country altogether, then you are missing your family if you have any. If you are a person who is an orphan and only kid, then both of you, then you don't have this problem. But I guess for the majority of people, you do have family, or at least you have some friends. It will include your child missing grandparents, or grandparents missing your child or children. Loud. It may also include that unexpectedly you may lose your relatives and not be able to go to say goodbye.
Yeah, and this happened to Lena.
If you have kids, then you may consider raising them bilingual, which includes speaking two languages at home, which for some people may be a big problem because it's not convenient to switch. Maybe a lot of brain work to do that. It's definitely a lot of trouble, more than if you just speak one language together.
Yeah, you might also get some pushback from friends and family saying that, well, they're not going to learn like one language well enough. They're going to be mixing words, mixing grammar, and they're never going to be able to speak the language, or they're going to be behind in school or whatever.
Or they're just simply afraid that they will not be understood. I mean, that the kids will not understand their grandparents, for example, or family.
Yeah. Right now, like our daughter is about 3 years old. She speaks more Russian than English.
But she understands both.
Yeah, she understands both absolutely, like fluently, as much as like a 3-year-old would. But I know that there is still that fear among some of my relatives when they hear her speaking and they can't understand what she's saying, that she can't understand what they're saying, which isn't true, but I know that fear is still kind of there, that there's some trouble with communication.
The one aspect that if you rely a lot on what people say or people think of you may be a big issue. So international marriage is always something that is not frowned upon, but something that many people either don't understand or understand your reasoning or reasons why you married this person a little differently.
Basically, it's weird. And like a lot of the circumstances like leading into like marriages like ours, they're not normal. Like they're unusual. A lot of times it happens faster than you usually would, like if you're both from the same country.
People may also to judge you by your decision to marry a foreigner. A typical situation, for example, in Russia is I'm a Russian girl married to an American guy. So why did I marry this guy? Obviously to immigrate.
And for the
Obviously for the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, even if people think that there may be something between us, they still the first thought will be just she wanted to go to the U.S.
Yeah, it's those stereotypes. What would they think of me, like in Russia, for marrying a Russian woman?
You're a little young, maybe, but usually, I would say middle-aged Americans come to Russia to marry a Russian girl, mostly for looks, her looks, the way she looks. Russian women, maybe not me, but usually take more care of the way that they look. They are pretty. Yeah, who doesn't know that fact?
You're very pretty.
Thank you. And they do a lot of things around the house. So many Russian women, even if they don't know how to cook, for example, or clean, they do by the time they get married. So I guess this is another thing to think of. So it's the guy wanted to have what did he call it?
Like a trophy wife.
A trophy
but
wife.
But also kind of a mom.
Oh, a mom, yes. Yeah. So the woman who will be doing everything, because many Russian women really do everything in the house. They clean, cook, take care of kids, take care of husband as if it is not her husband or her older child. So yeah, many men would be interested to marry a Russian woman for this reason. But I guess more commonly just looks. And again, many people would assume that something is wrong with him, because he wouldn't find a wife in his country, so there's something wrong with him.
Obviously not with any of the women in our country.
I mean, especially because there are more women on average than men. It means that you have more chances of meeting a girl anywhere except in China. And again, I guess people will look at you differently if you speak Russian. Then many of stereotypes just disappear. If you just always speak English everywhere you go, you have a Russian wife, then you live in Russia, it's also kind of suspicious.
Yeah. Also, like, if you are an American going to Russia, don't be too American. It's gonna sound weird. Be like a little bit more reserved, and don't smile so much. I feel like we could do like a full video on this too. You could smile a little bit, but again, a little bit more reserved. Otherwise, you stand out like a sore thumb. Don't wear your hat like this. Don't wear a hat.
It's a cool kid hat.
Yeah.
Of course, if not gold digger or somebody who wanted to marry a mother, then you can be a spy.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, I was accused of being a spy when I was in Russia.
By our janitor lady.
Yeah. Yeah, she was gonna turn me in to the police.
I haven't seen it before. Who are you? Do you not speak Russian?
I've been there like for a month.
You have an accent?
But, yeah.
You're a spy. Again, she should be concerned. She is kind of like a security guard.
Yeah, so it was kind of her job to know like which people live there. A little bit of a misunderstanding on my part as well, because I was thinking like, what business of yours is it who I am and what I'm doing here? But yeah, so you might be accused of things that either you don't understand or that you're not guilty of. Maybe things that you're guilty of, if you are a spy. Which I asked Lena if she's FSB, and I told her she has to tell me. So those are the rules. She said she isn't, so we're good. Do you want your apple?
No.
Can I eat your apple?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are married to a person from your country, even to a person who is from your native town and even who went to the same school and the same university, you may still, of course, have some misunderstanding. If you're married to a person who did not grow in your country, do not know many of the traditions, cultural things, and history, many things about your country, then of course you will have misunderstandings based on that. This may be one of the things that brings a lot of issues to some people, and in our case I think it brings more benefits, because when we deal with some situation, we have some kind of problem, for example, we have different view on things, and not that we are like two rams hitting each other with horns. No, we simply look at the solution differently. For example, John can give his idea on how to do it, and I can give another idea, and together we will find a perfect solution just by mixing the two. Or he asks me for things because I have a different view on things based on, again, my cultural background.
Yeah, I'd say with that can be either a negative thing or a positive thing. If you have like a strong relationship, it'll probably be a good thing. The big thing is being able to talk about it. You're going to be different. It's important to understand that you do come from two different places, two different cultures. You're raised two different ways, most likely.
Yeah.
And just understand that going into like those conversations, and kind of use that to learn and grow together.
Yeah. So I think for us personally, it was really such a journey to understand the world. It's like when you travel somewhere, you do open many things to yourself, but when you go deeper in a culture, you understand more and more. And then, of course, if you talk to a person who grew up in some culture, it's one of the best ways to actually learn this culture, through this person, through his eyes or her eyes. It's interesting. So really, many people look at it negatively, like you will never be able to understand each other. It's what actually I thought before I married him, because I never thought I will marry a foreigner. Like really, I even thought maybe that I will not be able to make friends with a foreigner ever, just because, I mean, we are all, our background matters so much. Sometimes it is something that you're not even open to other cultures, and here I am married with kids almost. So you may change, and it really is a positive thing. It may be a very positive thing that you are from different cultures and have different backgrounds. But of course, the thing is that it brings a lot of misunderstanding, and for many people, if they don't trust each other, they don't work on it, they don't discuss it, you just end up alone. You feel lonely, that you are misunderstood, that especially if you live in the country of your spouse, that you don't understand, that people around you don't understand you as well, because it's the thing, way different.
Living in another country and another culture, especially if you don't know the language, you might feel isolated and kind of alone at times. Even if you're living there with your family, with your spouse, you still kind of feel like you're an island. And that is a very real possibility. I say it doesn't happen for everyone to the same extent, but it does happen.
As a suggestion, you can of course find friends or people to talk to from your country, so you don't feel that much isolated, which you will still feel, but still not on the same scale. And one more thing that you may miss because you don't feel you belong, you may miss holidays, celebrations, traditional food, and all of the things that you cannot buy or do in this country. Being from two countries and living in having an international marriage over time, maybe not immediately, but over time, it will change you from who you were, a typical person from your country, and will not really make you a person who is from a country you live in. So you will be kind of stuck in between somewhere, not completely assimilated, but just halfway there, maybe even more than halfway there, or less than halfway there. So you kind of feel like you don't belong to any of the two countries or cultures.
So like one of the other parts we were talking about, feeling alienated when you're in like a foreign country. This is kind of like feeling alienated among your own people, because you don't feel like you fully belong there either, because you've changed. I wish there was like some kind of term for this. I'm just going to call it cultural smudging. Sounds bad, but yeah, like I don't feel like I'm fully American anymore.
I don't feel like I'm fully Russian anymore.
Which is, I mean, it's good and bad.
I do feel that it unites you a lot, because I do feel like we are the only people who are the same. Like, we are weird for both of our cultures, but we are not weird to each other. We are the same. We are made from the same material.
Well, almost like we need like our own country now. You know?
Yeah. Which again may be a thing to consider, because your kids may have the same problem. They may also be not Russian, not American, for example. They may feel that they don't belong and that they are weird. Again, it's a good weird. It's
but it might make things difficult for them in the future, wherever they end up living.
Or they may end up transitioning to just one culture. So I want to be 100% American, and you may not like it. Or I want to be 100% Russian and stop speaking English, for example, which I think is I won't happen. But I don't know many Russian people who knew English and they decided like, oh, I don't want to speak it anymore. I don't want to know it. But still, they may make choices that you won't like, just because they don't feel comfortable in their skin being not here, not there.
Yeah, I'd say like something to look out for in the future, and I just thought of this. Should have thought of it before, but like self-identity for children growing up in families like this. I feel like self-identity is a huge problem in modern society in general. I feel like children growing up like this will kind of like especially have a problem with it, because you're trying to figure out, you know, am I American, am I Russian, how much am I of both, can I be both, kind of where do they fit in all of this.
Yeah, I agree. It's not only sad if you look at it, it's a good thing. Just stay positive, look at everything positively. But again, you can be depressed at everything you do, or you can just look positively at many things. She did not, I mean, she chose us.
Yeah.
So she chose the situation to be in. I don't think she struggles. If she struggles in the future, she will have us who are as weird as her. And of course, she's not the only person. There are many people who are in the same situation. So she may have friends. It's important again to find friends who are similar in similar marriages.
Yeah.
If not for you, then for your kids. For you, it's also good. Like, for example, I can talk to my girlfriends who are married to Russians. But they may not understand me fully, and only having friends who are married to an American, for example, may understand me fully. The same with kids. So her having American friends or Russian friends is great, but having friends who grew up in situations like she did may be very good for her. Very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is difficult to find people as weird as you, but they're out there, definitely. So even if you're on an island, there are other islands. You just gotta reach out and find them.
Okay, I guess we'll stop here. If you are considering international marriage, it's a long journey. It may be hard for you. It can be very, very eye-opening for you.
Yeah.
Can be a very happy experience.
A lot of ups and downs. But yeah, and this video isn't to dissuade you from considering that. but just to make you aware of some of the challenges, difficulties, and benefits as well.
Thank you for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Пока-пока.
Пока!